My name is Julia, and I live in Los Angeles. I remember the exact moment before everything broke. The sunlight was too bright, spilling across the marble floor like something pure, something untouched. My laptop screen reflected it faintly. Julia, we're ready for your confirmation. 6 faces on my screen, 6 investors, millions on the table. My pulse steady, controlled, years of work distilled into this one call, this one moment. Julia, can you confirm the final projections? One of them asked. I leaned forward slightly. Yes, A shadow moved across the floor, not mine. Slow, deliberate, too close. You're doing it again. It was the voice of my mother-in-law, Megan. Calm, cold, certain. I didn't turn, because something deep inside me, something instinctive, almost primal, whispered a warning. If you look at her now, everything will collapse. Megan, I said carefully, keeping my voice steady, I'm in the middle of something important. Important, she repeated, her tone dripping with disbelief. Staring at a screen is important now? Megan, I said, keeping my tone measured, professional. I'm in a live meeting. Meeting, she echoed softly. Too softly. That was new. I swallowed. My fingers tightened slightly on the edge of the desk. Behind me, I heard the faint click of her heels on marble. Closer. Closer. The call was still running. Someone was speaking. Numbers, projections, expansion, but their voices were fading, like I was already being pulled out of my own life. You've been sitting at your laptop for 3 years now, and somehow this house is still a mess. A quiet breath left her lips. Then, I think it's time you remembered your place. My heart skipped. What if the person smiling behind you is seconds away from destroying everything you built? I turned. Too late. Her hand was already on my laptop. For a split second, we locked eyes, and in hers, there was no doubt, no hesitation, no mercy. Megan, don't! The world tilted. Her arm moved. It cracked through the room like something living had just been killed. My laptop hit the marble floor once, hard, then split, the screen blooming into a spiderweb of black fractures before going completely dark. And just like that, everything I had built hit the floor. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Not me. Not the faces frozen on the video call. 6 investors mid-sentence, their mouths half open, their expressions glitching into silence before vanishing entirely. Not even Megan. Then, "There," she said, brushing her hands together as if she'd just finished a chore. "Now you can finally focus on what matters." My throat tightened. What did you just do? She turned to me, chin lifted, eyes sharp with that familiar, suffocating certainty. What I should have done months ago. Enough of this pretending, Julia, sitting here all day tapping on a screen like a child. It's embarrassing. Those were my partners, I whispered. My voice trembled, not from weakness, from something rising. You just destroyed a live conference. Oh, please, she scoffed. Conference? With who? Your little online friends? She stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was offering wisdom. A wife's place isn't behind a laptop. It's in the kitchen, cooking, cleaning, taking care of her husband. Behind her, my husband Miles leaned against the doorway, watching, always watching. "Miles," I said, my eyes never leaving his. "Tell her." He hesitated. That tiny pause, barely a second, cut deeper than the crash. "Julia, maybe just let it go," he muttered. "Not worth it." The words echoed in my chest, hollow and familiar. 3 years of not worth it. 3 years of silence swallowing my voice whole. I stepped forward slowly, my gaze dropping to the broken pieces at my feet. That laptop wasn't just metal and glass. It was sleepless nights, risk, fear, the first dollar I earned on my own. I secretly built a successful company in the field of AI-driven information technology development with a monthly income of $700,000. The life I built while they thought I was playing games. All this time, Megan thought I was constantly hanging out on social media forums and playing games. My fingers curled into fists. "You don't touch my work," I said quietly. Megan laughed. Actually laughed. "Work," she repeated. "Sweetheart, don't flatter yourself." Something inside me snapped, clean and irreversible. How far can you push someone before they stop breaking and start breaking back? I lifted my eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't look away. I didn't plan to touch her. Even now, I can still feel the exact second it happened, the moment thought disappeared and instinct took over. Megan bent down again, reaching for what was left of my laptop, as if even its broken pieces offended her. "No," I said. My hand closed around her wrist. She froze, not from pain, but from shock. "How dare you touch me?" she hissed, her voice dropping into something cold and venomous. I didn't answer, because if I opened my mouth, I knew what would come out wouldn't be words. It would be everything I had swallowed for 3 years. I pulled her up. She stumbled, heels scraping against marble, her composure cracking for the first time. "Miles!" she cried out, desperation creeping in now. "How are you just standing there? Don't you see she's attacking me?" I looked past her. He was still there, in the doorway, watching, always watching. "Miles," I said, my voice steady, too steady. "Say something." He shifted, uncomfortable. "Julia, don't make this worse." Worse? The word hit me like a slap. Worse than what? Worse than being erased in my own home? Worse than watching my life get shattered at my feet? A bitter laugh caught in my throat, but it never escaped. Instead, I turned, and I walked, dragging her with me. "Let go!" she shrieked, her voice rising, breaking, echoing through the hallway. "You've lost your mind!" No, I was finally finding it. The house blurred around me, walls, furniture, memories, 3 years of quiet obedience collapsing into a single, unstoppable motion. The front door stood ahead, closed, final. For a split second, my grip tightened. This was the line. Once crossed, there would be no going back. "Miles!" she shrieked again, desperation creeping in now. "Do something!" Behind me, silence. That was his answer. What hurts more, being betrayed or realizing no one is coming to stop it? I opened the door. Cold air rushed in, sharp and real. And then I let go. No hesitation this time. I pushed her out. She stumbled onto the porch, catching herself on the railing, her perfect image cracking under something raw and human. "You ungrateful girl!" she shouted, turning back towards me. "After everything, this is how you repay me?" I stepped into the doorway. "No," I said quietly. "This is how I stop paying." And then I closed the door. The sound wasn't loud, but it was final. And on the other side of it, something inside me finally broke free. The silence after the door closed didn't last. It shattered, just like everything else. Miles's phone buzzed. Once, twice, then again rapid, insistent, like something was trying to claw its way into the room. He frowned, pulling it from his pocket. "What the?" His expression changed instantly. Color drained from his face. "Julia," he dropped his voice. "You need to see this." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "See what?" He turned the screen towards me, and the world tilted. There I was, frozen mid-motion, my hand gripping Megan's wrist, her voice sharp, my face unrecognizable even to me. A red icon blinked in the corner. Live. No, I whispered. 27,000 viewers, he hardly said. My ears rang. I watched as the moment replayed, her words slicing through the speakers. You should be cooking and cleaning. Then the crash, the gasp, the door. Every second of it exposed. Someone clipped it already, Miles added, scrolling. It's spreading. My chest tightened. Turn it off. But he didn't, because something else was happening. The comments, they flooded the screen faster than I could read. She built that life. Why is the husband silent? Free her. She deserves better. I blinked. Once, twice. They're defending me? I said, barely recognizing my own voice. Megan's muffled shouting echoed faintly from outside the door, but for the first time, it sounded distant, irrelevant.
Miles scoffed, but it lacked conviction. They don't know the whole story. No, I said slowly, stepping closer to the screen. They know enough. My hands trembled, not from fear anymore, but from something sharper. Validation. Truth. For 3 years I had been invisible in this house, silenced, diminished, and now 27,000 strangers saw me, really saw me. What happens when the truth you hid to keep the peace becomes the truth that sets you free? I turned away from the phone and walked toward the shattered remains of my laptop. Each step felt heavier, final. I bent down, picking it up carefully, ignoring the sting as a shard grazed my finger. A thin line of blood surfaced. I didn't wipe it away. Instead, I turned back to Miles. You said they don't know the whole story? I said quietly. Then I lifted the broken screen toward him. Let's fix that. The call from my board lit up my phone like a warning flare. Urgent, now, concerns your husband and the shares. I stared at it for a second too long, because something else had already shifted in the room. Miles wasn't looking at the phone. He was looking at me, carefully, like I had become something unpredictable. Julia, he said, his voice quieter than I had ever heard it. Before you answer, I must confess there's something you need to know. I didn't move. Then say it. A pause. Too long. I invested in your company. The words didn't land. They dropped, heavy and cold. What? I asked, almost calmly. A minority stake, he continued quickly. 6 months ago. It was just a precaution. A precaution, I repeated, in case things didn't work out. Something inside my chest tightened, sharp, precise. In case I didn't work out, I asked. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Behind me, Megan let out a small, satisfied laugh from the porch, her voice cutting through the open doorway. Of course he did. My son knows how to protect what's his. What's his? The words scraped against something raw. I turned back to Miles slowly. You used your firm's connections? Yes. To buy into my company? Yes. And you never told me? His jaw tightened. I was protecting us. No, he was protecting himself from me. What hurts more, being underestimated or being quietly prepared for failure by the one who promised to believe in you? I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice. That would have meant I still needed him to understand. I didn't. I turned and walked into my office, closed the door, locked it. For a moment, my hands trembled, not from fear, from clarity. I opened my tablet, logging into the control dashboard. Ownership structure loaded. My name, majority shareholder, executive authority. Then, Miles Carter, 15%. I stared at that number. 15%. He thought that made him safe. It didn't. It made him accountable. Every clause he signed lit up in my mind. Ethics, conduct, public reputation, all the things he had just violated, all the things I could now enforce. My finger hovered over the screen. For a second, just one, my vision blurred. 3 years of trying, of hoping, of loving someone who had already planned for my failure. A tear slipped down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away. Instead, I opened a new email. Subject: immediate ethics review. Attached file: the video. My voice steady, I pressed send. And just like that, the truth wasn't ours anymore. It belonged to everyone. The board meeting began at 9 p.m. No greetings, no pleasantries, just the video. Her voice, my silence. His silence, frame by frame, undeniable. Miles stood behind me, but I didn't turn. I didn't need to. I could feel the tension in the way he breathed, too fast, too shallow. Mr. Carter, one investor said coolly, were we informed your domestic conduct could impact our brand? It was a misunderstanding, he replied, but his voice cracked. A misunderstanding doesn't trend globally, another cut in. I uploaded the final document, the ethics clause, signed, dated, binding. Silence fell. Heavy. Final. Then, the vote is unanimous. Frozen shares, suspended partnership, career collapsing in real time. Behind me, Megan's voice broke. You've ruined him. I stood, turned. No, I said calmly. He did that himself. What costs to stay silent, and who ends up paying the price? The next morning, the house felt different, lighter. I didn't think you'd choose your company over me, Miles said quietly. I met his eyes. I didn't think you'd choose control over love. A week later, he sold his shares, at a loss, signed the papers. 10 days later, I divorced Miles, choosing self-respect and professional success over a controlling marriage. He left with his mother without looking back. The door closed. This time, I didn't flinch. Some endings don't break you, they return you to yourself. I stood alone in the house. According to the documents, the house belonged to me. I paid for it in full with money I had earned myself. I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't broken. I was free. And for the first time, silence didn't mean submission. It meant peace.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.